Hey, Trail Kreitzer with goHUNT. Today I have another gear list for you. You're looking at my elk hunting gear for this year. I have a couple of tags in my pocket. I've got an Archery Elk tag in Idaho, which I'm going to be hunting about August 31st through about the first week of September. After that, I'm going to bump over into Wyoming with Chris Neville that works here, and we're going to hunt elk on a general season permit in Wyoming. We're going to hopefully hunt there at the heart of the rut, so about the 10th through the 20th. And so this is just my gear that I end up using. I'm actually going to take all the same gear from Idaho to Wyoming. I've got different pieces of gear that I'm going to probably use more early than I will late once the rut gets rolling. And I'll kind of touch on those as I go through the process. I'm just gonna jump over here and start at this end of the table. Let's talk about my weapon. Once again, I'm shooting the Mathews Halon X. I've had this bow for a bunch of years. I think this is 5 years that I'll be hunting with this bow. Love the bow, it just fits me. Geometry's great. 35 inches axle to axle, 30-inch draw, 70-pound draw weight. I've hunted with 60-pound bows. This is, 70 pounds, works great for elk. The sight I'm using is an Excel AccuStat Carbon Pro sight with a 5-pin housing. For elk hunting, I really like a 5-pin housing. I like that because I have set yardages 20 through 60. Elk, especially when they come into a call, you may get a shot at 20 yards. He may walk past you and go to 40 or 50 or 60 yards before you may be able to get a shot off. I really like having a 5-pin setup. That way I have a pin for, no matter the situation. This is a slider sight, so if I have to have a subsequent shot, maybe 70, 80, 90, I've got that all sighted in and set up that I can do so. Stabilizers, I'm shooting the Bee Stinger Micro Hex stabilizers. I've got a 12-inch bar up front with 3 ounces. I've got a 10-inch back bar on the Bee Stinger sidebar bracket, and I think I've got 8 or 9 ounces out the back on that sidebar. So my quiver, I'm using the Tight Spot 5-arrow quiver. A nice thing I like about it is it just clips on and off. You have a simple dovetail clamp and you can just pop that off. So if you're sitting in a water hole or whatever you want to do, you can pop it on and off, which is a nice feature of that. I'm shooting gold tip platinum pierce arrows in a 300 spine, 3 blazer vanes. I'm shooting, once again this season for elk, the Exodus, the Q80 Exodus broadhead, which is that little guy right there. Cut on contact, fixed blade broadhead, super sharp, spins really, really well, flies great. I will say, if you're getting ready to go out elk hunting, do yourself justice and shoot your broadheads in. But these fly great, and I've got great penetration with these little broadheads. For a release, I'm shooting a Trueball HT Pro brass 4-finger hinge. So back tension release, I've been shooting that for a bunch of years, since 2009. I hunt with it, it's the only release I really shoot. So for a rest on my bow, I'm shooting a Trophy Taker Smackdown rest. And I get questions about this quite a bit, but so basically what I've done on the grip, I just pulled the Mathews grip off. Mathews grips are great. It's just a rubberized grip. A lot of people really love them. For me, I like the more narrow grips. So this one actually has a aftermarket grip, which is made by a company called Shrewd. This is a low risk grip, and then I've just wrapped it in some tennis racket tape to give it a little bit of tack to it. The thing I like about this grip, but it's really repeatable for me. Sits nice in my hand, and I can repeat that grip the same way every time. Another little piece of gear that I have on my bow that I get asked quite a bit about is just this little arrow holder. I just tacked that down to my shelf on a piece of adhesive backed foam, black foam that you can see here. That keeps, does 2 things. One, it keeps my arrow on the shelf at all times. So if you get a little bit of angle to your bow, if you're stalking or something like that, your arrow's not gonna fall off the shelf. And the foam, the adhesive back foam, is nice and quiet. So if you do have any kind of arrow issues, it's quiet. It's not gonna, ding. The other thing I get asked quite a bit about is what's this little piece of cord that's hanging off my stabilizer? What that is a finger sling. Works very similar to a wrist sling that a lot of guys have on their bows. What it is, it goes from your middle finger here over to your thumb, and you put that on around the front of your bow. So basically when you shoot your bow, you want to have nice follow through when you shoot, and that just makes sure that I'm not going to drop my bow. I don't like the feel of the wrist slings, so the finger sling works really well for me. The other thing I really like about it is when I'm carrying my bow, I've always got that contact with my bow, and I've got that loops around the riser, so I know I'm not going to drop it. So that's finger sling, and I've used it for a bunch of years too. So next I'm going to jump in and talk about my sleep system. I always tell people, make sure that you have a good sleep system. If you're backpack hunting, it's super important. If you don't sleep well in the backcountry, you're not going to feel like hunting. So make sure that you're warm enough, You have a bag that suits the degree or the temperatures that you might be facing. Make sure that you're going to be able to stay out of the rain or the weather. You get some snow or rain. I mean, put your money in a sleep system. It's way important if you're backpack hunting. So first, I have a little Sea to Summit Aeros ultralight pillow. This is just a little inflatable pillow. I've had it for the last couple of years. It's added weight. I used to take the down jacket and stuff it in a stuff sack and sleep on that, which is fine. But I'm here to tell you, if you've used one of these little pillows, you probably won't ever leave home without it. They're really handy. This is just a Thermarest Z seat. So this is just a tiny little seat. I'll touch on it right now because I have it with my sleep system, but basically this serves two purposes. One, works as like a doormat for my bivvy or my tarp. I can stand on that in the middle of the night if I have to use the bathroom. I can sit on it if I want to put my shoes on. It's great for glassing, sitting on and keeping your butt dry and keeping you up off the ground, gives you a little bit of cushion. I'm a big proponent of bivvy sack hunting for elk, especially when those elk are rutting and you're constantly on the move. It's nice to have your camp on your back every morning. Hunt all day and then just go to bed wherever you end up that evening. That way you can wake up hopefully nice and close to the elk that you were hunting during the day. So this bivvy is a Outdoor Research Stargazer bivvy. This is a new bivvy that they came up with last year. Nice and lightweight. Comes with a pole. So you have one center pole that goes up and over your head. It's going to keep that up and off your face. It's got guy out points, so you can actually stake that out on the four corners. This is a great little bivvy. I really, really like it. The next part of my sleep system I'll touch on is just a sheet of polycryo. You can pick this up at your Home Depot or Lowe's. It's made by a company called Frost King. This is the super thin one. Basically for me, this one serves two purposes. One, I can throw it underneath my bivvy for a little bit of ground protection. And two, it's really handy to have when you actually harvest an animal and you're like laying out the meat and you're trying to bone out and stuff. This is great to have on hand to just keep the meat off the ground, keep it really clean while you're working on it. My sleep pad is a Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. This one's got some blood on it because I've had it in my pack. But ultra lightweight. This is the wide long version, so 25 inches wide, 78 I think inches long. Pretty lightweight, 2.5 inches thick, 1 pound. The other part of my sleep system that I always carry is a tarp. So in this little bag I have a Rab Sil Nylon 2 tarp. And then I have 8 MSR needle stakes. So these are just tiny little ground stakes. I use that only if I think I'm gonna have some impending weather. Otherwise, I just use the bivvy sack. Bivvy sack is great for just overnighters and maybe like some small rainstorms. If you get into a day that's like maybe 2 or 3 of torrential downpours, it can be really miserable to last out those days in a bivvy sack. So that's when a tarp becomes really important. This tarp I can pitch. I can use I can fit 2 guys in it. I can fit myself and my gear really easy. I can stay out of the rain and stay protected. So I really like this little Sil Nylon tarp. The tarp's about 10 ounces. The stakes are about 0.4 ounces a piece. And then I just have a little Sil Nylon bag that I keep that in. For a sleeping bag, I've kind of bounced back and forth between quilts and sleeping bags. I really like a sleeping bag for elk hunting. I get into late September, it can get pretty cold at night. You can have some hard frost. I sleep a little bit cold, so for me, I've been kind of going back to a sleeping bag. This is a Western Mountaineering Alpine Light 20-degree sleeping bag. Great sleeping bag, it's under 2 pounds. I think you're 1 pound, 15 ounces. So, still relatively lightweight. Sleeps really, really warm, so I love that sleeping bag. All right, so then I'm gonna jump in and talk about my cook system. So this is my cook system right here. Everything I need right in this little pot. So this is a Seek Outside bale handle pot. It's a titanium pot. It's about 4 ounces, just over 4 ounces. Inside that, I have the stove that I'm end up cooking with. This is a Soto Windmaster stove. It's got the little 4-prong rest that just pops on. And then at that point, you can just screw that onto your little MSR ISO Pro. I just carry one ISO Pro MSR fuel canister. It's like 3.9 ounces. Typically, that'll get me through, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 days. If I'm only boiling water once. If you're a coffee drinker and you're drinking coffee and warming water up every morning and then you're doing a mountain house every night, maybe think about grabbing 2. For a utensil, so this is just a little MSR folding spork. Just pops out, really lightweight. It's kind of a no frills utensil. That can go in your little cook stove, and that's pretty much it for my cook setup. I'll jump over and talk into like water and hydration. For water filtration, I'm using a Sawyer squeeze system. So this is a real basic system that works really well. All you do is just fill this little bladder up with water. You can stick it in a stream or a creek. Fill that up, this screws on the top, and then basically all you do is roll that thing out and squeeze the water through, which filters through this, which is the filter. You can filter into like a little platypus 1 ounce or 1 liter soft carry bottle. I always pack this. This is basically what I fill up for my Mountain House meals in the evening. I may drink half of it during the day and then use the other half to fill up my Mountain House or my Peak Refuel at night. For a bladder, I'm using a Platypus Big Zip 3 liter. You got plenty of room for water there. If you're filtering out of like a wallow or a sitting pond and you're maybe hunting an arid environment where you don't have access to good running water, at that point it might be good to add another filtration system, maybe something like the MSR Sweetwater or maybe a Katadyn Hiker Pro, something that you can really pump that water through and filter all that grime out of it. And then you might also think about using the Aqua tabs, which are like a water purifying tab, and I do carry some of those as well. That's basically it for my water system. So bladder, soft water bottle, and then the Sawyer squeeze water filter. Game bags. So I carry 4 game bags. I think in this pile, I've got 3 of the High Country, which are the smaller, lightweight, bone out versions of the Caribou game bags. I also have 1 larger one, which I think came out of the Muley game bag set, which is just a little bit bigger. So if I want to haul, I don't know, boned out meat or a hindquarter or whatever whole, I could do that in that game bag. Typically 4 of them is enough to take care of all the meat, especially if you're boning it out. You want to make sure that you've got 3 or 4 buddies or some llamas or horses to help you though. So the next thing I will jump into is just kind of talking about some of the calls I'll end up using. I'm not the greatest elk caller, admittedly. I'm decent enough to get by. I've had some success calling elk. This is probably my favorite little call. So this is just a Phelps Easy Estrus cow call. I use it probably more than anything. I do pack a bugle too, mostly just to locate bulls. That's a Rocky Mountain game call, bully bull bugle tube. Reed calls, I do pack reed calls. So I've got 3 there. I think I end up having another one there in my little case. I really like the Phelps Maverick call. Sorry, Jason. That's maybe that's a knock on you actually though, because I'm a pretty lousy elk caller. So I do like the Maverick though, and that works best for me. The other one I use is the Rocky Mountain game call, the Black Magic, and then I also have the Reaper, which is the blue one, and I really like those. People ask all the time, like, oh, how do you know which reed is right for you? The simple answer is just try some. Ultimately, you'll find one that kind of works better for you. Typically, if you're a beginning caller, I would say start with like a lighter latex, something that's easier to make a sound. Use that until you can produce, elk noises, cow calls, and then maybe some light bugles. And then jump up to some of the thicker, the more mature sounding bulls and cows. So that's my calling setup: bugle, cow call, external cow call, and then some reeds. I always pack some camo face paint, which is just a camo compact. If you've got some glare on your face, that's nice to just break up your outline. Next, I'm going to jump in and start talking about some of the other gear I carry, specifically my kill kit. So for my kill kit, a knife, I pack the Taito 1.1, which is just a little replaceable blade knife. Super light. I do wrap it with some paracord, which gives me some dexterity with it. I pack 6 of the number 60 blades that go onto that. I pack a little packable saw. So this is the Outdoor Edge Grizz saw, which is a little lightweight pack saw. I've used that both to skull cap a bull if I don't want to pack the cape and the whole head. I've also used that to cut shooting lanes if I'm going to end up sitting on a wall or something like that. I also pack a little fixed blade knife, which is the Essie Azula. We no longer sell this knife in our gear shop, but we do sell the Fanon made by Taito, which is also about the same size. I really like that knife. It's just a small skeletonized fixed blade knife, which comes in handy. I pack a sharpener also. So this is the Work Sharp packable sharpener. It's got a ceramic edge and then also a more rough edge. The great thing about these little Work Sharp sharpeners is that you have the angle. So you can see there, Basically, it has the guide for you, so you're just going to lay your knife across it and make a nice clean swipe, one on each side. With that and my fixed blade knife, I can keep my knife sharp, and I can pretty much do a whole animal between the two of those. So people ask me sometimes, like, why do you, what are you packing for knives? And like, why do you pack two, a fixed blade and both are replaceable? I pack the replaceable knife because those are super sharp and easy to use. They're really easy to open up hide. So hide's really thick, it's hard to cut. It's really nice to have a scalpel type blade to open up hide. If I'm doing a lot of skinning, I actually go to using the little fixed blade quite a bit. Holds a nice edge, and it's just handy to use in your hand, so I do a lot of skinning with the ESEE. So I'm just going to jump now into some of my miscellaneous gear that I carry. This is a Garmin InReach. This one is actually the old version, so this is the DeLorme InReach, the SE model. This is just basically my satellite communicator. It's a 2-way satellite messenger. I can Bluetooth that over to my phone and just use my phone like I would send any other text message. These are great to keep in touch with family and friends. It also has the SOS button in case you get yourself in a pinch and you need to call in help. I'll actually send out your GPS location to search and rescue, so that's a handy little piece to have. I always pack cord. If you end up having to hang quarters in a tree, in your game bags, the cord comes in handy. Well, this is some Z-Pack Z-Line. The nice thing about this cord is it's really lightweight, it's super strong, and then it's also slick. It doesn't bind, so if you're running that over a branch and you're pulling it, sometimes if you just carry paracord, you can get it to where it kind of binds and pinches and it'll actually cut. This is super slick and it'll just pull up and over a branch nice and easy, so that's a good feature of that cord. I always pack a multi-tool, so this is the Leatherman Signal multi-tool. It's got a couple of knife blades, it's got a saw blade, it's actually got a knife sharpener, it's got a whistle, got a peg pounder, so if you're setting up your tarp, you need to pound your stakes in. That's a nice little feature. Headlamps. So I always pack a couple of headlamps. This is my primary headlamp, which is a Black Diamond Spot. Nice lightweight, super bright headlamp. My backup headlamp is this little Petzl E-Light Plus. It weighs less than an ounce. It's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. It does have a red light. Also has 3 different settings of brightness, but that's a great little backup headlamp to just keep in your kill kit or in your possibles pouch. I do pack a solar panel just to keep my DeLorme charged up or my phone. This is the Goal Zero Nomad 7 Plus. It's a nice little fold out solar panel. It's got the back piece that actually folds out to help give you the angle. So you can set that up and angle it to the sun to get the best charge. It's got all the cords and everything inside this back piece. So that's a nice little solar panel. I always pack a camera. This is my little packable lightweight Sony a6000. It's a mirrorless camera. Does great for me. I don't take a ton of photos. I could be way better at it, but that's a nice camera to take some field photos. I carry a GPS still. So this is the Garmin eTrex 20X, which is a little lightweight GPS. Not a lot of bells and whistles. It will take a chip, so if you want to put a landowner chip in there, you can do that. But I always carry that basically because, one, it can take a couple of batteries, so if I run out of batteries, I can carry some spares and just drop that in. The battery life on these is extremely long, and I always have some sort of reference with that little GPS as well as my phone. So the next stuff I'm going to talk about is just some of the loose items I have. So this is my fire kit. So I always carry a Bic lighter. Usually I have a couple of those. I've got a bunch of weatherproof matches in there, and then I also carry these little wet fire starter cubes. It's a little paraffin cube, will light even when it's wet. Those are way handy if you have to start a fire. This is my little med kit. I've got some cold medicine both day and nighttime. I've got some bandages. I've got some nighttime Tylenol PM. I typically have one of those for every day, just if you have some trouble sleeping. Those are great to help get you to sleep. I carry some Imodium AD if you have some stomach issues, some bandages. I carry some migraine medicine, some Tylenol, just kind of a catch-all for meds. I also have a suture kit in there. In case you cut yourself real bad and you get in a real bind and you need to suture yourself up, there is a kit in there. The next pouch I have here is kind of some backup supplies. I always carry a black Sharpie with me for taking notes or signing tags. So I typically have about 4 feet of Leukotape wrapped around that Sharpie. I carry some D-loop cord in case your D-loop breaks, or if your rest cord to your drop-away rest breaks. I carry a couple of small Allen wrenches to cover my rest and my sight should anything happen or go wrong there. I carry some spare batteries, so those are some AA lithium batteries that go to my GPS. I also carry some backup AAA batteries that would go to my spot headlamp. Those are just backups, mostly precautionary. Over a 10-day hunt, you may end up diving into those backup batteries. All of that gear goes in one of these little medium Zoid bags, which is made by Mystery Ranch. All that stuff just goes into that, and then that way I can keep track of it. I do carry a couple little forager pockets on my hip belt. Typically I put my GPS, maybe my camera, and then I also will sometimes carry my release. Only most of the time my release, where it's a handheld release, just goes right there in my front pocket. This is a pack fly, so this is a Mystery Ranch pack fly. I always carry that. I've had a few calls in the last few days. They're interested in bivvy hunting, and they'll say, what do you do with your pack at night or your clothes, because you don't have room for it in your bivvy sack. So typically what I do is I'll lay my pack over on the ground, fold my clothes, put them on top. I'll take that pack fly, put it over my pack so it's protected from the rain, the weather, should you have a storm in the middle of the night, and then I'll lay my bow on top of it. So that little pack fly serves as my waterproofing in the middle of the night. Also, if you get caught in a daytime storm and you need to throw it onto your pack, that's a great little piece to have. All right, so I'm gonna jump over and talk about my clothing system that I'll be running for this hunt. I'll start first with my upper layer. So base layer, I'm gonna run with a couple of Sitka Core lightweight shirts. So this is the lightweight long sleeve crew. This is updated. All these materials actually were updated for 2019. These have a great feel to them. So I'll typically run a lightweight crew as my base layer. I'll probably throw over a Core lightweight hoodie over that. And most of the day, I'm probably just gonna end up rocking those two items, especially early on in the season. Once it gets a little bit cooler, I may end up running a mid layer. And this year, I'm super excited about this piece. When I first looked at it, I was like, man, I don't know if that's for me, but I'm loving it actually. So this is the Kelvin Active hoodie. You can see it's the Kelvin Active jacket. It's got a new kind of updated inner fleecy fill-in piece. I don't know what this stuff is, but man, it feels really good on your skin, and it feels like it's gonna give it some loft and some insulation. Extremely quick drying. The other cool thing about this jacket, you can see it's got a cap sleeve. So it's gonna hit you about right here, which is gonna give plenty of clearance for your bowstring. So you're not gonna have big bulky clothing that's gonna give you problems with your bowstring going forward. This piece is actually one of the pieces that Sitka made this year that I'm super excited about. I also have a Core heavyweight hoodie. I've packed that over a bunch of years. This has been a staple in my pack. I actually probably leave that in my truck this year, and probably in lieu of this Kelvin Active hoodie. I'm gonna give that a go. They're about the same weight. This one actually might be lighter, and I feel like it's gonna give me as much or more insulation than the heavyweight hoodie. So for pants, I'll end up wearing the Sitka Ascent pant, which is my favorite pant from Sitka. I typically rob a set of knee pads from something like the Mountain Pant, where you can buy those as separates. I like having knee pads in my hunting pants just in case you have to drop to your knees to take a shot. If you bend over and tie your shoes, it's great to have those knee pads. The Sitka Mountain Pant is a nice kind of a mid-season, late September pant. I may end up using those somewhat, so I wanted to note those today on my gear list. I love these mountain pants. They are a little bit heavier, but that's a great set of pants for late in the season. All right, so for my feet, I'm gonna be running a pair of Farm to Feet Ely socks. This comes out of their Hunt lines. This is a great midweight merino wool blend sock. I really like those. Headwear, so I have a Sitka beanie, which is just a typical fleece beanie. I often wear that at night. A lot of times I'll wear it in the morning. You probably saw some videos where I've been hunting in this, then I fold it up and over my ear. I look pretty stupid, but I can still hear bugles. But I really like that little beanie. This is the Sitka Traverse glove, which is a great little lightweight set of soft shell gloves. Typically all the insulation that I need for elk hunting in September. For a belt, I'm going to be running the Marsupial Gear stretch belt. I really like the webbing that this belt is made out of. It's nice and wide, but it's got some stretch to it, which is great. Keep your pants up through the day. For rain gear, I will be using a Sitka Vapor SD jacket, which is a single layer Gore-Tex. Super lightweight. You're into that 6 ounces, so you hardly notice it in your pack. Rain pants, I'll be using the Sitka Dew Point rain pant, which is just a nice pull-on pair of rain pants, relatively lightweight. Gore-Tex layers in those as well. Footwear, I got a couple of pair to touch on right here. So these are primarily my elk hunting boots. This is a La Sportiva Trengo Cube GTX boot. We get a lot of questions about boots, and there's a lot of different good boots on the market. Give us a call if you have any questions about maybe what will work for your feet best. But boots are pretty personal items, and a lot of times you end up having to try a bunch of different brands or types of boots before you find what works for you. This is personally what works for me really well. It's a stiff-soled mountain boot. I really had good luck with that, especially when you have a heavy pack on. The other set that I have in my truck almost always, and I've been wearing these more and more, this is a La Sportiva Urgano GTX, which is like an aggressive trail runner. It's got good aggressive tread on it. It's got the built-in gaiter. These are super lightweight, and I find that I'm wearing these more and more. I may end up swapping these out mid-hunt between the two if my feet are a little bit sore. You want something that's more flexible and a little bit more lightweight, so I really like that little shoe. The last couple of clothing items that I'm going to touch on are my puffy layers and my hat. So this is just my goHUNT 2020 dad hat, which is nice and breathable. I really like that hat. And then my puffy layers. So this is a pair of Western Mountaineering Flight puffy pants. Is this a necessity in your elk pack? Probably not, but man, these are sure handy to have. Less than a pound. If you have some really cold nights, you can sleep in these. These are great for early morning glassing or late night glassing sessions. These are great around camp at night. Man, you haven't lived until you've had a pair of puffy pants on. These are awesome. And then for my insulation puffy layer, I'm going to end up using a Stone Glacier Grumman down jacket. This jacket's super lightweight, really warm. It's got the right ounces of down and the right weight ratio. I'm really excited about this little puffy jacket from Stone Glacier. My backpack, I'm using a Mystery Ranch Metcalf backpack. It's about the right size for the hunt that I'm doing. Ideally, I think that Metcalf is suited best for maybe 5 to 6 days hunting. Where I'm hunting in Idaho and Wyoming, I'll probably end up hunting 3 to 4 days at a time, coming out, restocking, and either relocating or going back into the same area. So I think that that backpack's gonna work best for me. They have some great other backpacks like the Selway, you know, the Beartooth to suit your needs. The Sawtooth is a great day pack. So check those out if you're looking for different types of size packs for different types of hunting. But Mystery Ranch makes a great pack. So the last thing I'm going to touch on is my optic setup. So for spotting scope, I probably won't pack a spotting scope into Wyoming when the elk are really rutting and rolling, and I'm covering a bunch of ground. Mostly at that time, I'm going to end up using bugles and chasing bugles, so I may not pack a spotting scope. But early on when we're hunting Idaho, spot and stock or maybe sitting water is a good method. I am actually going to pack a spotting scope between me and my buddy Scott. So this is a Swarovski ATM 65 millimeter spotting scope, 20x60 zoom. I just have a sock on over the top of it to keep my the body of the scope clean, keeps the lens caps on. It's a great scope for elk hunting. I'm going to be mounting that on a tripod. So my tripod is a Siriu 1204 XL with a little Vanguard PH21 head. It's just a simple two-way tilt pan. These legs, I actually don't make them anymore. In the gear shop, if you're looking for something comparable, you might check out these Slick tripods. They've got 2 or 3 different versions that are very comparable to this. It's a great little tripod, works great with my, my spotting scope. It's also really nice to have a tripod if you're glassing off with your binoculars. So this is a little Leica Stable-Lite base plate that clicks into my tripod, which I can use to then glass with my binoculars. Probably not as important for elk, but it is nice to have a steady view when you're glassing through your binos. For my bino setup, I always run with a pair of 10x42 binoculars around my neck. That's a pair of Leica Noctavid 10x42s. So I always keep my binoculars in my chest bino harness, which is made by Outdoor Vision. This is the Outdoor Vision Ridgeline bino harness. It's a great little setup for elk hunting. I like the fact that it's forward folding, so if you need to get your binoculars in and out easy with one hand, you can do so. I also like that it's got some pockets on the side for wind indicator. I've always got a couple of bottles of wind indicator. We sell those here in the gear shop, so the Rocky Mountain Wind Checker. You gotta have wind checker. You can fool an elk in a lot of ways. You know, they may see you and you can get away with it. You might make some noise because they're a noisy animal, but you absolutely cannot fool their nose. Wind checker is probably one of the most important pieces of gear that you can pack when you're elk hunting. This little bino harness also has a pocket for your tag in the front. It also has a built-in rain fly, which is nice. For a rangefinder, I'm using a Leica Rangemaster 1000. Again, they've discontinued that model. If you're looking for something comparable in the gear shop, I think we have the 2400 and also the 2800, which are great little rangefinders. They've got the angle compensation, they've got the red reticle, which is nice, early morning and evening, really easy to see. And it's got a little rangefinder pouch also made by Outdoor Vision, and that's the Outdoor Vision Sightline range finder pouch. One other piece, and it's probably the last piece of gear that I'll touch on my list. This is a little phone cam adapter made by Time's Up. Just screws onto the back of your phone to be a little adapter. That's a universal adapter. It'll adapt to your binoculars or your spotting scope. It's great for, digiscoping, collecting any footage that you want to. It's awesome for capturing memories of your hunt, and catching some film of elk. So that's my gear list for 2019, the elk hunt, which is upon us. It's hard to believe. Utah, those guys are out hunting elk this coming Saturday, but it's gonna be here before we know it. If you guys have any questions about any of my gear, any of the gear that we sell in the gear shop, feel free to drop a comment below. We would love it if you would like and subscribe to our channel. Helps us to keep producing more content. Guys, it's time to go elk hunting. Good luck.